Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista and we are on week 3 of the Pantry Challenge. I can't believe that we are already at week 3. I have some yummy meals planned for this week and I am going to take you guys along. So I hope you enjoy this week's video. Okay, we are on week 3 and today is day 16. For supper, we are going to make a barbecue hamburger steak and it is out of this book. So it needs to cook on low for 4 to 6 hours. We're kind of cutting it close because it's already 11:30. So we need to get this into the crock pot right now. So to this bowl, I have 1 pound of ground beef, and I am going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of pepper. Essentially what we're doing is we're just making a hamburger patty. And then we are going to add 1 cup of breadcrumbs. These are just some breadcrumbs that I made up yesterday. I had some sourdough loaves. I just turned them into breadcrumbs. So we're gonna add 1 cup of breadcrumbs to this. And then we're gonna add half a cup of milk. I am just using a whole milk. And we are just going to get this all stirred together. We're gonna mix it well. And then we're gonna form these into some patties. It says that this recipe serves 4, so I am going to assume that I'm just making 4 patties. And I always like to use my hands when making like a patty because it really gets it good and incorporated. We need to brown these in a skillet, so I'm just gonna make the patties and then put them into the skillet. I do have a patty maker, but I don't wanna get it out and clean it, so we'll just form them with our hands. And we're just gonna brown them on the sides. We're not gonna cook them completely. Some of these patties are bigger than the other ones, so I'm gonna try to even them out a bit. So while we are waiting for those patties to brown up, in the Instapot pot, because I am using my Instapot, I do not own an actual slow cooker. My Instapot works terrific for it. It does have a slow cooker feature. So in here, I am going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons of vinegar. I am just using a plain white distilled vinegar. We're gonna add 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And then we're gonna add 1 cup of ketchup. I'm just using this stuff. I had to go and get some more out of the pantry. Chop it up here. Okay, so we'll add the 1 cup of ketchup to here. I just went and flipped those patties because they were brown on the one side. And we are going to whisk this until it's all combined. Okay, so here is our sauce. I am feeling like I really want to double this because it doesn't look like a lot. But I'm going to stay faithful and I'm just going to go with what the recipe is recommending. So we are going to take those patties off because they look like they're browned on both sides. And we are going to set them in here and we are going to push them down so that each of them are well covered. Okay, so here are our patties. And I'm just going to take them out and I'm just going to put them in here for right now. Once I get them all in here, then I'm just going to try to move them around a bit and get them covered. Again, we're not cooking the patties, we're just searing them on each side. We're just browning them up. A little wooden spoon here, and I'm just going to just kind of flip them around so that we can get them all covered. I'm also being very gentle because I do not want the patties to break in half. Okay, so that's what we are working with. Okay, so I'm gonna get my slow cooker plugged in. I'm just gonna get this back piece checked to make sure that it is somewhat sealed good. And we'll put the insert in. I've got my seal on here. I've got it in the venting position. Then we're gonna go slow cook, and then we have it set on normal, which is considered low for the Instapot. And we are gonna set it for 6 hours. It does say 4 to 6, but we will opt for the higher setting. I also got a loaf of sourdough made up for supper tonight. So supper is almost ready. It's got about half an hour left. I am just making some custard for dessert. I know I said I was getting off the sugar, but it doesn't have that much sugar in it. So I'm just gonna whisk up these egg yolks and milk. These are the leftover egg whites. I'm just gonna put them in the fridge and probably just fry them up for breakfast, just have scrambled egg whites. So on the stove right now, I have sugar, flour, and salt just on a very low heat. I'm gonna get these quickly whisked up so I can whisk them in. So I have my flour, sugar, and salt in here, and I'm just gonna add in my, slowly add in. You're supposed to do it slowly. I'm gonna turn the heat up a bit. I have it on low, and now I'm gonna turn it to medium. I'm just gonna whisk, sorry, you probably can't hear me. I'm gonna slowly pour in this mixture to this mixture and whisk it, and then we need to whisk it until it thickens. I have a lot going on right now in the kitchen. I'm also gonna be starting some cheese sauce to put over top of our cauliflowers that we're having for supper. So I'm just gonna get this whisked in. So we are going to have some cauliflower and broccoli. These are from our garden in the spring. I froze these in May. So I am just going to throw them in my Tupperware steamer basket. You just put water on the bottom of this and just basket it. And then I put the lid on, and I'll probably put them in because they're frozen for about 5 minutes. And then once that custard is done, then I will quickly make up some cheese sauce to go over top of this cauliflower. Hoping this isn't too freezer burnt. Looks like it got a little freezer burnt, but the cheese sauce will drown some of it out. I'm not gonna put them in the microwave quite yet because we still gotta make the cheese sauce. All right, so custard is done. I just took it off the stove and it's nice and thick. This will set as it cools. Added some vanilla to that. So now I'm gonna get started on my cheese sauce. I have this out also because you want to put it over top so that it doesn't get a film on it. We're gonna get started on this cheese sauce. So I'm gonna turn this to kind of low, and I'm gonna put in 2 tablespoons of butter. If I can remember, guys, I will but I will print out in the description the recipe for that custard because it is so amazing. It does use a lot of milk and it does use a lot of eggs, so it is perfect if your chickens are laying a lot or if eggs are on sale and if you can get some milk. So super yummy. I personally like custard when it is hot, but the timing just doesn't always work out right. It does take a while to set up. All I'm doing right now is pretty much just making a white sauce. And I am getting this recipe from allrecipes.com. Whisk in 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm just using a white all-purpose, that flour I get from Azure Standard. We are gonna let this cook until it kind of starts to smell a little nutty and gets brown. It does say to switch to a spoon. And then I'm gonna add in 1 cup of milk once it gets brown. Smelling nutty. And it's getting to be a little bit brown. So we are going to add our milk in. Normally you'd think you'd whisk it in, but it says add milk and stir with a wooden spoon until the mixture thickens for 3 to 5 minutes. Usually you whisk it in. I'm not liking this. I need a whisk. Not getting the clumps out with the wooden spoon. So let this thicken up a bit. I have this on like low, number 2. I don't know what, just low. So it says it takes about 3 to 5 minutes. And then what we're gonna do after that is we're gonna add in the cheese and we're gonna stir it until the cheese is melted. It's calling for 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. And we're just using a white cheddar. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna actually get those cauliflowers in the microwave right now. I think it's starting to really thicken up. So I am going to add the cheese. And again, it calls for 1.5 cups. Get this stirred in until it's melted. I'm gonna turn the heat off because my burner is just really hot. Get it all melting. Yummy. And then we're gonna add some salt and pepper to taste. This is what they look like finished. I am really thinking that I need to get a new Instapot or a slow cooker. My Instapot actually functions fine. It's just the slow cooker function. I had to come and turn these onto high for an extra hour and a half because the burgers weren't actually cooked inside. I think I need to start just kind of putting everything on high, but anyways, they're good now. So we've got that. We've got our cauliflower and broccoli. And then we have our cheese sauce right here. I did put some pepper in it, and then that's our custard with the stuff over top of it so it doesn't get the film. So that's just gonna cool on the counter and we'll have that for dessert. So that is supper tonight. Oh, and then the bread I made this morning. So that's supper tonight. There's my plate. I'm so looking forward to this broccoli and cauliflower. It was so yummy from the garden. Today's day 16. See you tomorrow, guys. Okay, we're on day 17 and tonight we are having ground beef enchiladas. It's a pretty quick meal. It usually comes together pretty quick. It only takes 25 minutes to cook in the oven, but we're gonna need to get it prepped. So I need to get the oven preheated at 375. Now I have some spicy enchilada sauce that I canned last year, and I am also going to put in some mild diced green chilies that I canned up also this summer. I thought it would be cool to put them in the mix. So we're just gonna get some ground beef browned in here. Essentially all we're doing is we're just making like a taco filling. And you also need a 9x13 Pyrex baking sheet. You need to add a half a cup of enchilada sauce on the bottom of this. I'm also using these tortillas. These are just ones that I got from Azure Standard. So we're just going to use those. Don't have to make those from scratch. I think I actually have a video of this recipe. I think I made one a while ago showing you guys how I make this recipe. So I'm just gonna kind of just make it along right now. I will link that up in the corner for you guys. So if you wanna check out the full recipe, you can go and check that video out. Now this recipe also calls for onions, and we are obviously not gonna put them in because Steven does not like them. We'll leave the onions out, but we will add in some of this stuff that I dried out, this branch of the onion. Okay, let's get half a cup of this stuff on the bottom. So I just drained my ground beef because this is an 80-20 ground beef. So we're gonna add some granulated onion into this because we are not adding a normal onion. This on here. Traditionally, you would have fried the onion, diced up onion. You would have fried it in here with this. Okay, and then to this, we're gonna add 2.5 tablespoons of taco seasoning. This is a teaspoon, so I'm just doing a heaping. And we like a lot of taco seasoning. Okay, and we're gonna turn the heat back on to medium, and we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of water to this. I might add just a little bit more water, just so that it can kind of get that bits off the grit. Just add like a tablespoon more. I had some cheese in the freezer, and this was just some cheese that I actually got from a local cheese place. Well, not really local, it's about an hour away, and it does not freeze very well. It's called Southern Charm, and it is like a really delicious white cheddar, but it just doesn't freeze well, and it literally crumbles. So I wanted to get that used up. We got everything stirred into here. I'm gonna add these chilies to this meat sauce so that they can get incorporated. Okay, so now what we have to do is take our wrap. I mean, you can, if you want, you can heat up a little bit of this enchilada sauce. I just don't have very much in here. And you can coat each side of the wrap if you want. I'm not doing that because it just takes extra time. So we're just gonna put, the recipe says a 1/4 cup of filling into the wrap. And then about a 1/4 cup of cheese into each tortilla. I'm doing probably a little less cheese. And then you're gonna just flip them, seam side down, and just put them into the tray. And so we're just gonna do all of those. We're gonna take our remaining enchilada sauce and we are just going to spread it over top of these enchiladas. Try to do it as evenly as possible. Then it just says to sprinkle with cheese. A little bit of this stuff left, I'll use that. Then I have some other pre-grated stuff. We like a lot of cheese, so just sprinkle this on top. And it doesn't say to cover it at all, it just says put it in the oven for 25 minutes. So we will get these in the oven. I also pre-made some brown rice here. I do have a video also showing how easy it is to make this stuff. I can also link that up here as well. Just out of the oven. I forgot to set the timer, so they were probably in there for more than 25 minutes. So we're gonna plate that up, and then, like I said, I made that brown rice, but that has to get reheated. There it is. I actually just took some extra filling and just put it over the rice just as a filler. So that is day 17. See you guys tomorrow. We are on day 19 and tonight we are doing a recipe from my favorite book, Fix It and Forget It. So tonight we are going to do a pork chop casserole. And we just have to get the pork chops browned up. So I just added some avocado oil to this and I'm gonna turn it on medium. I have 4 thinly sliced pork chops here. Just heat that oil up first because we're just gonna brown the pork chops on both sides. We put our 4 pork chops on the bottom of here. This recipe says that you can use 4 to 6 pork chops. So I am taking a can, this is a 10.5 ounce can of cream of mushroom soup, and I am going to mix it with 3 cups of water. Just kind of heat it up a bit. And then I have 1 cup of rinsed brown rice. This recipe just says 1 cup rice uncooked. We'll just add it to this, just put it on and just scatter it around because it just says to mix remaining ingredients and pour over top of the chops. Okay, so now we're gonna pour this over top. I don't know if it matters. I'm using long grain brown rice. I guess we'll see at the end. And then it says to add 1 teaspoon of dried parsley. Some stuff we dried from the garden. And then we wanna add a teaspoon of salt and then a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. We'll just kind of give that all a stir, put the lid on. And then we are going to plug it in. That helps when cooking. Okay, so the option we have is to cook on low for 6 to 8 hours or high 3 to 4. If you guys have been following along with my videos, I'm having some issues right now with my Instapot. I think it's on the outs. So we're gonna do it high. What does it say? 3 to 4 hours. So we'll go the 4 hours. We'll check it at 2 hours, and if it's really accelerating cooking, then we will turn down the heat to a low and then do it for an additional 4 hours. So I will see you guys back at that time. Okay, so it is done. Did it all on high. So I have not turned it on low. So it is all cooked. The rice is cooked. Pork chops are cooked. However, it is very bland. So I think what I will end up doing when we eat this is I'm probably gonna end up putting some soy sauce on it and kind of making it more like a stir fry taste almost. But that is it. I will come back and show you guys once we have it all plated up. Okay, we are now on day 20. I can't believe it. Tonight's dinner is from this cookbook. I have been absolutely loving this cookbook, and as you can see by the tabs in it, I am planning on making quite a bit of these dishes with you guys. So for tonight, we are going to do a creamy pasta with chard, like a Swiss chard and tomatoes, but I will be using some frozen kale that we have here instead of the Swiss chard, and then some of our canned tomatoes. So I am just waiting for this pasta to cook and boil. I am using this pasta. It does call to use fettuccine or an egg noodle, but I want to use this stuff. So we have it, we're going to use it. Then we are also having some of these. I'm going to fry up some of these. I am going to fry up both packages. They are rock frozen right now because I figure we can have some for leftover lunches tomorrow. I like to kind of cook this stuff in more bulk, and that way we always have leftovers. So this stuff's pretty good. We got it at Costco. So we'll just get this fried up. It is fully cooked, so pretty much all we have to do is just kind of heat it up. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this saucepan and then put a lid on it and just kind of get it thawed out and steaming. Don't have a lid that fits this pot, so I'm improvising. To this pasta water, we have to add a lot of salt because it does say to heavily salt the water. So it calls for 8 ounces of pasta. Okay, so our pasta is almost ready. So now we are gonna get this sauce done. I didn't want to start it too early because you have to add the pasta to it, and I didn't want it to thicken up too much. So to this pot, we are gonna add about a tablespoon of avocado oil. The recipe in here calls for olive oil, but I'm gonna use avocado because I like the mildness of it. And then to here, you're supposed to add a 1/4 cup of chopped onions. We're not using chopped onions, so we are just going to add some of this. So it kind of changes the way that we're gonna make this, because traditionally you're supposed to let the onions cook down, and it takes about 5 minutes to do that. So we're gonna kind of just escalate it a little bit more and skip to the next step. So the next step is to add in 1 cup of chopped, drained, and canned tomatoes. So we have our diced tomatoes that we've canned up, and then I just drained them. So we're gonna add this to that. And then we are going to add 2 cloves of garlic minced. So I'm just using my Costco kind. So I'm just gonna do a little teaspoon. And then we're gonna add 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And then again, because we're not adding the onions, I'm just going to sprinkle some of this onion powder in at this time. I really need to make some more of this. It just stinks so bad dehydrating the onions. I added a couple scoops of that. Just gonna stir this around a bit just to get the flavors kind of all working together. We are gonna add in this kale. The recipe calls for 1 pound of Swiss chard cut into 1-inch strips, but we're using this kale that we picked from the garden in November. So we're just gonna stir it until, because it's frozen, probably take a little bit longer, but you want it wilted. That pasta is done, so I actually need to get that drained. I'm definitely using too small of a thing for this. I'm just gonna add a little bit of avocado oil to them. The water is all dissolved now, so I just don't want to have them completely burned. Okay, so this is good and wilted. I think I may have added too much kale, but that's okay. We're gonna add 3/4 cup of heavy cream. I actually might add a little bit more because again, we put a lot of kale in here. You want it to be a sauce. Yeah, I'm gonna add more cream to this. Probably use up the rest of this cream, it's gotta get used. So we're gonna add some salt and pepper to this. Probably put quite a bit of pepper in because it's kind of the flavor we're going for. And then it says to cook it for 2 minutes until it's bubbly. Our sausages are almost done also. Okay, I am actually gonna take these sausages off. They are good and done. And our sauce is also done, so we are gonna add the noodles to that. This is why I added extra cream, because I boiled too much noodles. may have to add some milk to this also. I wonder if like a chicken broth would be good in here too, to kind of make it stretch a little bit, or pasta water. That would be another good option. Okay, these are good and coated because it just says to stir until coated. So now we are gonna add 3/4 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, and we're just gonna stir that in, and then it's done. I'm probably actually gonna take it off the heat. This is a perfect meal or a perfect pasta dish because you have your vegetables in here. So for me, I always like to have a vegetable on this side. This incorporates the vegetable into this. So I don't have to worry about figuring out what vegetable we're gonna eat. Perfect. So there is day 20. I cut up my sausage, and that pasta is really, really, really yummy. And then I got a slice of bread, and then we're having some cranberry juice with that. We are on day 21, and tonight we are going to make some chili. I just have a pound of ground beef here, and I'm just gonna heat this up. I'm kind of taking the Pioneer Woman's chili recipe, and I just have modified it to how we like it. So I will link in the description the original chili recipe for this, but again, I have modified it quite a bit to kind of suit what we like. So I am going to put in a pound of ground beef into here. We are just going to get this brown, and once it is brown, we are going to add the other ingredients. And what I'm doing right now as this is browning is I am just taking a jar of canned black beans and a jar of red kidney beans, and I am just draining them and rinsing them off. So I actually just took the ground beef out and just drained it a bit. The ground beef that I have is pretty fatty, so I like to have it drained so that the chili isn't full of fat. So we're gonna add 2 cloves of garlic. I am gonna add about a teaspoon of garlic. And then we are gonna add some tomato sauce. This is the last of my canned, like store-bought canned stuff, so I wanna get that used up. And then now I will start using my stuff that I canned this year. So that was a 15-ounce can, and I have a half pint here that I had to get used up. And then I'm probably gonna add another pint of tomato. We like it really saucy, and it does cook down quite a bit. So I do add a lot more tomato sauce than what the original recipe calls for. So I'm gonna use a pint. Now we are going to stir in our spices. So we need approximately 2 tablespoons of chili powder. I am just gonna kind of probably put in 3 heaping teaspoons. About 1 teaspoon of cumin, and then about 1 teaspoon of ground or 1 teaspoon of oregano. And again, because I don't use salt in my canned goods, I am probably gonna add about maybe 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then approximately 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You don't want too much of it because I do add something else with heat. I'll show you. Stir all of those in. This chili is nice. It kind of doesn't take all day to cook. Now it is 2:30, and we probably will end up eating around 5, so it will have a nice slow cook time. Okay, and then we're gonna add our beans. So that is the black beans and the kidney beans, red kidney beans. I'm gonna turn this down to like a low simmer, just because I don't want it to cook too fast. And now I'm gonna add some pickled jalapenos. We absolutely love these in the chili. If you have normal jalapenos, you can use that too. I just normally just add the pickled stuff. And if I have it chopped up, which I don't right now, but I will chop some later, I put black olives in this, and if I also have it already made, bacon is really good in this also, but unfortunately don't have any of that. Okay, so we are just going to leave this simmered, and I will cover it so that it doesn't bubble everywhere. I might turn it up to a 2. Like I said, we're gonna eat around 5, so I am gonna come back at 3-ish, maybe 4-ish, and make a cornbread, a Southern style cornbread for us to have with this. But I want it hot, so I'm gonna make it when it's closer to dinner time. Okay, there is my plate. I have some delicious 100% whole wheat sourdough bread that I made, and I am super happy with it. I had some wheat flour. I'll explain it on one of my future videos, but I'm just super happy it turned out. So we have the chili here, and then I have these olives that I've had in the fridge for a really long time that have to get eaten, so I'm gonna put a couple on here. I totally did not make any cornbread. I'm just having a lazy day, Saturday, and I just did not want to have to make any, and this chili is perfect. It literally just sits there and cooks. So that is day 21's meal. Well guys, that was week 3 of the Pantry Challenge. I cannot believe that it is already over. I hope you enjoyed those meals. We definitely had one flop of a meal, and it was the pork chops. It was nothing to do with the recipe. In fact, I really wish that I would have had better pork chops. The reason why it was a flop is because those were the very last of our pork chops from pigs that we had actually processed 2 years ago, and they weren't good anymore. I noticed it when I was cooking it, that the smell was kind of off, but I didn't want to say anything on the camera because I wasn't quite sure. But then when it was finished, it looked delicious. It really did. But then I tried a little bit of it, and the pork chops were definitely off. So that meal went to the chickens, and we actually had leftovers that night. I think I had a fried egg sandwich, and Stephen just had leftover enchiladas. So I was disappointed because that recipe actually looked like it was going to be a pretty good recipe, and I am willing to give that recipe another try with pork chops that are not gone bad. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye guys.